Hello and welcome to the Wedding Dish Podcast. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things weddings. You'll hear tips and tricks from entrepreneurs and wedding pros, as well as real couples about love, life, and entrepreneurship. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest on the Wedding Dish Podcast, Sarah Alapin, and I am also the founder and CEO of Photos from the Harty and District Bliss. Before we get into it, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and do that because it is so good and it's packed with so much great info. And I'm really excited for you to listen. So today we are doing our annual event, we'll call it, which is the Vogue annual predictions for the year. So what's in and what's out. And this is my blind reaction to these to this. Hopefully they do a little bit better this year. If you listen to 2024's, they didn't do a great job on representing inclusivity in a lot of different ways. And I was sort of disappointed about it. I mean, I was very disappointed about it, I'm going to be honest. But we aren't going to start this episode that way. I'm hoping they did better this year. So here is what's in and what I think about it. Let's do it. So the first one is hometown weddings. And this is kind of interesting because I feel like hometown weddings were never really out. Although, in fairness, this isn't necessarily saying that they were out ever. But hometown weddings, I feel like people have always really loved going back to them. I'm definitely here for a hometown wedding. Living in the DC area, I could see wanting to go either way. So for me, like locally, I could see couples either wanting to go back and get married in their hometown or wanting to bring people to the DC area that never have really gotten to experience it. So depending on where your hometown actually is. And I could absolutely see couples who have relocated to the DC area for work or whatever reason, wanting to bring people together in this location. So, I guess I'm neutral on that. It could go either way. I don't think it's new, but I'm still here for a good hometown wedding. I very much, I don't know, I totally could have done a hometown wedding for myself, and that would have been lovely. Um, okay, ready to drink cocktails. So this is going to be, I'm assuming, there are two ways this could go. It could either be that the drinks are ready and sitting on the bar, or this could be ready to drink cocktails, meaning it looks like they're suggesting that it's made by the bartender. This trend, I'm guessing, is related to like High Noon or any of those, like Ranch Water, depending on where you're located, White Claw, I'm trying to think of the other ones. But that has become increasingly popular where you can, take them to a park or whatever and they're canned. So I'm guessing this comes out of that where, you're never missing a beat. You can just go pick it up. Yeah, I could totally see that being something that people would expect and enjoy as guests. If and probably also ready to drink mocktails would fall into that as well if you are not an alcohol drinker. Film photography. Okay, look, you shock. I love this. Film for me never left. I have always loved film. If you know me, or if you've been listening for a while, you probably know that I taught darkroom photography in a high school. That's my origin story. So film photography definitely has a spot in my heart. That's huge. And I don't think digital will ever replace that feeling. It is definitely not price inclusive. We'll say it that way because all the chemicals, Kodak has gone under since Kodak went under a couple years before I left teaching. And ever since then, the chemicals got way more expensive. They were already expensive. But it's definitely not inexpensive. So that is not going to be necessarily price inclusive. I could see, maybe wanting, I guess you could make it more price inclusive. Let me rephrase that by having some of your photos be like just like your couples photos or like your big ticket moments. Like your first kiss, be film. Some of your couples portraits, like a big ticket moment would be like your cake cutting, if that's a priority for you, first dance, something like that. So um, that would be, having one or two rolls of film is going to be a little bit more it's going to be less expensive than having your whole wedding shot on film. Also, keep in mind, I still photograph like it's film. I try not to like waste a bunch of clicks because it's a lot to go through. And I just am trained that way. Like I've been doing film photography since I was a child. I took my mom's like old school Olympus OM and taught myself photography with it when I was a little girl. So, you're going to get fewer pictures, in other words, because you're shooting like really with intention. Whereas digital, you might get like more because there is less of a cost to the photographer and to the couple when you're doing a bunch of digital photos versus a bunch of film photos. So those are all going to be like your really important moments, depending on what you're looking at for your budget. Late night takeaway boxes. Yeah, I'm here for those. I think, in this example, they suggest a breakfast bagel and cream cheese. So something that you're getting, like, so you don't have to do brunch in the morning, but people can eat it before they go to the airport if they're flying, or in the morning if they're a little hungover, something that's going to soak up that alcohol, like a bagel, something like that. Or at least, that was like the old theory. I don't know if that still holds water or not. Don't come to me for hangover stuff. I don't really get them, luckily, yet. Or anymore. Both of those things are true somehow at the same time. There's also like your pastries and that kind of thing where it's something you're going to eat in the morning. I love that. I think that's really cool. A lot of people do fly out in the morning if you've traveled in. So giving them something to eat before they have to head to the airport, I think that's a great idea. Especially if it's something that's like personalized. I think that's pretty cool. Calligraphied invitations. These are also going to be that's going to be a little bit higher ticket item. It's going to be you're going to have to accommodate that in your budget. If you're going to do that. Again, I feel like these, same thing. This is like, as the hometown weddings, this never really went away. They are cool. I definitely like them. If you are a very budget conscious person, this isn't where I would probably invest, unless I hand calligraphied all of my invitations, but I will remind you all, we had 17 guests, if you didn't know that. So, and some of them were paired. So it was not as much of a feat as it might have been if I had 300 invitations to send out or something like that. So, yes. Statement fashion for they say the bride and the groom, I'm going to say the couple. So having more fashion, involved, where they're talking about embroidered capes, dramatic trains, second and third looks. I've definitely seen the second and third looks increasing in popularity. It gets it just gets really pricey when you start doing that. I thought about doing a second look for my wedding, but I'm kind of glad first of all, I'm glad I didn't, because it can take a lot to change. It's just a lot of time and energy, and you have to find a place to do it, which we didn't really have at my venue. And I ended up glad that I didn't have a second look, because I think I would have been disappointed to take off the dress that I had spent so much time thinking about and planning for and, investing in emotionally. So I think that wouldn't have I'm glad I didn't do it. I think I would have ended up being like, I'm obligated because I bought it, but I'm not really that into the idea of actually executing. That being said, if it's your vibe, heck yeah, do it up. I love a cape. I am so here for a cape and a dramatic train. So by all means, I love that kind of thing. I've also had last year I had a couple who both both of the brides dressed in this was one of the coolest weddings because I mean I was one of the lucky people who got to know this up front. So they ended up buying both of their bridal gowns had the same lace, just used very differently. So the dresses complemented each other perfectly. They did not know that they had both picked the same lace, which was so cool. And they were just super different dresses. They just really they were just perfect for each of their personalities and they looked fantastic in them and it was just perfection. And one of the brides ended up changing into a suit for the reception. And that was like perfect because she wanted to be able to dance in a way that she wanted the more freedom when she was dancing in the suit and she wanted to, change into and that was great. I loved that. So if you are wearing something that you really want a very specific look for your ceremony, like that moment. And then, you want something for the reception that gives you more flexibility and freedom and movement, then yeah, I mean, that's also a great option. And I think probably under thought about. So yeah, cool idea. I think you could you could have done that with a jumpsuit to accomplish that or a shorter dress, depending on what your vibe is. This was just so perfectly them. I couldn't have loved it more. For this couple. They were just so fantastic. I should bring them on and have them talk about that in the future. Makes note. Okay. The next one is drapery as decor. This, I have always loved this trend. I think let me also say, there's an episode, I want to say it's 2 years ago now. I'll link it in here, where I brought on one of the former presidents of WPPI, just flagging that for myself. And he's an LA-based rentals company owner and just super awesome guy. And they were talking about how expensive it is. We've had 2 people on about this because you have to bring in piping to create drapery. It can get costly because you're essentially constructing these large pipe systems that are huge. So just keep that in mind. This is actually more expensive than you think it is to use drapery as a decor item if it's hanging from the ceiling or the walls. Just heads up on that. In this picture that they chose, they used it on the chairs as well, which actually looks really cool. But it's also on the ceiling and the walls. We had a really beautiful wedding in, oh gosh, it was super long ago now. It feels super long, 9 years ago now, which is super long in the wedding industry. So they got married at Salamander Resort in in Northern Virginia-ish, kind of out past Dulles. But they did all the piping and draping around the entire space because the room where they got married just looked like any other hotel ballroom and they wanted it to be more custom and more like them. So they brought in the draping and then they did pink uplighting, which looked absolutely beautiful and completely transformed the space into being very different. And if you've ever been to Salamander, the entire property is just absolutely stunning. And because they felt like everywhere else on the property, from the barn to the outdoor fire pits to the rolling pastures, there was a falconry thing going on while they were there. So they have all of these really cool activities as well at the actual property. So you're looking at a lot of beautiful, really cool things throughout the duration of being on the property. And then to have the ballroom be a little bit more, I don't want to say plain, but I want to say universal, but just kind of standard, I think was disappointing to them and they wanted it to feel more like their style. So they did that and it was absolutely stunning. So it's a great recommendation, but again, builds it into your budget because it's more expensive than you think. Train weddings. Okay. Luxury trains chugga chugga choo choo. So cool. I love this idea. I think trains are an adventure. I even when it's just like going up to New York, there's something about a train ride that feels like it has to be an adventure because it's like from another time. So I love trains. I think they're so fun. And a luxury train wedding, that could be like super cool. Just so cool. I'm here for that. That would just be for me, that would be like an adventure. I'm so curious about how this would actually work in practice. Like if you would book the entire train, and would it be like going from one destiny, like through the Dolomites or in Italy, on the border of Italy and northern Italy? Or would it be like, through Austria, or would it just be that you get married as the train is just stationary, and then, you could do like an outdoor wedding against the train and have like the ceremony in there or something. I'm so curious about how this would work in practice. I think this is a really cool idea, and I think you could do it really well. So they're talking about, in this, it sounds like they're saying actually being on the train, because it says, imagine exchanging vows in a setting of unparalleled romance, dining under the crystal chandeliers and arriving by rail car to lunch in, Tuscany is their example. Yeah, I think you could do it either way. Be super cool no matter what. They also have like trolley museums in Maryland. That could be really cool and interesting too. Lots of options there. Stuff I hadn't thought about. We have done, because the railway system is really popular in Virginia. There's like a lot of history in Virginia. So like Bluemont Manor, oh wait, not Bluemont, Whitehall Manor has a trolley car on on site that you can use for photos, and those are stunning. Absolutely stunning. And we've done engagement sessions on trolleys in, I want to say Alexandria. Feels like it was Alexandria, but they're all over and they're really cool to use as well. Objects as invitations. So in this example, it is a martini glass, I think, that is part of the invitation. Invitations are the first major statement one sends to their guests. A new trend we are loving is sending gifts or objects in lieu of the highly intricate boxed sets to house invitation cards. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool. They said they commissioned a martini and aspirin salt and pepper shaker duo. Yeah, I think that's cool. I don't really have a huge opinion on it. It looks like in what they commissioned here that you're still doing the full invitation suite and sending this gift as well. Which, it's cool. I'd love to receive that personally. I think I've gotten as a gift for several weddings, I've gotten like peas in a pod, salt and pepper shakers. I think I've gotten salt and pepper shakers a couple times actually as a guest. So I guess you could totally do that in lieu of having a gift at the end, although you also don't have to do that either. But yeah, cool idea. Super fun. People will be excited. Private vows. I've also seen an uptick in popularity of private vows before the ceremony. We've had this for a while where people do, at their first look, they read their actual like personalized vows, and then they just do the standard vows at the actual ceremony, which I think is a cool idea, especially if you're nervous to speak in front of a large group or it just doesn't feel in alignment with your relationship. Then you could totally do this, and that would be awesome. Wedding wellness activities. Sorry, I need a sip of my coffee here. Wedding wellness activities, I think those are cool too. Tennis matches, pickleball tournaments, organized hikes and relay races are the examples that they gave. I've seen a lot of people do yoga now ahead of getting ready for the wedding. I think that's really cool too. I'm a big fan of anything that's a structured activity that people can choose to be part of or not, because I just think it like brings people together. Even if it's like not wellness, but it's like a booze cruise, which is like the opposite of wellness, but whatever. Like one of my friends that I actually attended their wedding, they did a booze cruise the day after their wedding. Um, and we've had people do things like that the day before, which is just super fun because you get to know the people that they love the most, even better than you did before. So doing it before the wedding is really fun because you get to know them and then you like enjoy the wedding together. But doing it on the backside was super fun too. I have friends that I've made that are like, this was also like 9 years ago. So we have definitely stayed in touch with some of the friends we made on those at those events. Restaurant weddings or restaurant catered weddings. Actually, we did this. We did a restaurant catered wedding. I love restaurant weddings. I think they're really approachable. The one thing here is you have to think about if they can handle catering in the kitchen because the food has to be dropped at the same time. So just make sure you really know the efficiency level of that restaurant and understand that it's not going to taste exactly as it would be if you ordered where you sit down in shifts, where like, because not everyone arrives at a restaurant at the same time and orders their food at exactly the same time, or the restaurant would just be weeded. So get a really good understanding of what their efficiency level is, or adjust your expectations because the food is just not going to be like at the exact same level as it would be because they may have to make it in advance and then warm it in the oven, which is not the way that they're going to be making it probably when you dine there as just a regular patron. 360-degree bars. So our mail just arrived and the Cluzo alarm went off about it. So, a four-sided bar or a bar that's in the round. These are great if you have the space for it. But if you don't have the space for it, then, do what you need to do in order to make it a really special day. But it is kind of nice to not have to wait in a line, even if it means you're waiting at the actual bar. So think about your guest experience and if that makes sense for you. Old-fashioned cakes. I love old-fashioned cakes. I'm a nostalgia girly, so I love that kind of thing. So I don't know that I'm into the like ones. I don't know if you all remember, but I have a vague memory of going to I'm the youngest of like all the cousins. Well, not the youngest, like third from the youngest. And it's a huge range in my family. So one of my cousins got married when I was like at the very start of having formative memory. So like what, 3, 5 or something. But I remember they had like columns between the tiered cakes. That's not my vibe. If that's your vibe, feel free, do it up. I love it for you. For me, I really like the, 70s, 60s, like 50s cakes. Yeah, that's my vibe. But I've definitely seen those becoming more popular in the last couple years. So that's cool. Statement, escort cards, and displays. So let me first tell you what an escort card and seating displays. So an escort card is something that's set on the table and it tells you where to go. It escorts you to your table, basically. So it has your name and then it has your table number. Typically, it may also have, I guess not typically, but it may also have whatever the food choice is, if there was a food choice, or any dietary restrictions by like a stamp or a color or something on the inside. So it signals to the wait staff, which is super handy. A place card would be something that's already at your seat because it's not taking you to your seat. It's showing you where your place is at that table. So that's the difference between those two things. And then your seating chart directs you to whichever table you're sitting at. So, and that may be, you have the place cards and the seating chart, or you have the escort cards typically. You could do both. I mean, do whatever feels authentic to you and feels right for you. But those are the reasons that you would have those and the different things. Anyway, so in this example, I think I saw this wedding somewhere, but they used basketballs as their seating chart because I think it was a professional basketball player. Malika Andrews seating chart. Yeah, basketball hoop with basketballs that guests could play with and enjoy. I love that. I love anything that's interactive. I think you all can probably pull an example of a really cool installation, decorative seating chart or escort card table. They can be really cool. They can also be like way over the top. And they can also, they should be whatever it is that feels like your style. If you I've seen like cool things like pickle jars. I don't like pickles, but I love the idea of like a little cornichon jar that has the table number and your name on it, something like that. Those are always really cool. I've seen like spices used and that kind of thing too, which are just super fun. Okay, what's out? Are you ready? Gonna need a sip of my coffee for this. Let's see. All right. Random destination weddings. So this is going to be like just going to any spot that doesn't have a personal connection for you. So this is the opposite, I guess, of a hometown wedding where you're just going to a random spot because you like warm weather. So you chose, or you like the beach. So you chose like a random beach location. I mean, that's fair. I haven't seen those happening as much. So I could see that being kind of on its way out for the time being. Also, nothing wrong with that. Let me start this by saying nothing wrong with that if you're doing any of these things. I did not do my wedding in a way that caused a bunch of problems for me. In terms of like a lot of people were disappointed and I get it. But I did what was my husband and I did what was right for us as a couple. And I believe that you should do what's right for you as a couple. So if you like random destination weddings, heck yeah, do it. I am in full support, along with everything on this list. Welcome bags. So again, like this is going to be replacing, what did they say? The takeaway boxes for breakfast the next day. So this would be kind of replacing that. Welcome bags. So they are saying instead that if it can be consumed, like a nice bottle of champagne or chocolates with a handwritten note, that's more appreciated than a welcome bag. I feel like a lot of welcome bags are things like that. They're like a bottle of water, maybe shout wipes. Shout wipes are great. They are the best of the things that are spot removal for your clothing. Not sponsored, but just telling you the truth. They're better than Tide pens. So you can get like a box of shout wipes or like a couple box of shout wipes and then like break them up and put one in each bag. I've seen those. I see chocolates and those things. I don't really see a lot of like welcome bags that aren't consumable. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking of, but I don't think I've seen any that aren't consumable now that I'm thinking about it. Or like flat, like a note. Rigid dress codes. So that's going to be like black tie or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you should do what you feel is best. If you have a vision, especially for your day and especially for your pictures or your video, if that vision includes, not having everyone in black tie, yeah, do it. I don't know. I don't see that as being on the way out, but I guess it depends on how rigid they're actually thinking. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's going anywhere. Personally. I mean, yeah, like you can take something vintage and make it look black tie or make it look like the equivalent of what black tie would be. When someone says black tie, they're not asking you to dress, like you're going to prom. they want you to be at a certain level of dressiness, but that can sometimes be the way that you put your outfit together and not necessarily like what it is that you are physically like the base piece of your outfit. So I don't know. I'm not sure I agree with that one. Matching everything. So bridesmaids dresses, I think we've seen bridesmaids dresses matching are have been out for or on their way out, or it's not a requirement anymore by any means. Like not having them match is absolutely fine. And people, it used to be truly that if you didn't have them match, that would be such a problem. That was a big thing when I was getting married. I got married in 2012. So when I was getting married, everybody was like, no, you can't do mixed dresses. It can't just be a color. And, that you need to have them all wear the same thing, which I wasn't really that into. I that ended up being something I caved on. But I think we all kind of agree. I think it looks really cool. I think it's nice to be able to choose what your people like you know what looks best on you, so being able to choose that is always nice. So this could be mixed prints, this could be mismatched china, different centerpieces. I love all that stuff. I love a good complementary but mismatched you know wedding experience, and it also looks beautiful when it matches. So do you. They're saying effortless is the ultimate flex. I think it should be what you want. Boutonnieres. Yeah, that's true. I've been seeing a decline in boutonnieres and corsages for like the mother of the bride or the mother of the groom or the mother of the people getting married, or like whoever, the siblings, whatever the case may be, whoever wants to wear a corsage or a boutonniere. I tend to agree. I mean, if you like them and they look good, do it. But I have seen really cool pocket squares recently. I've seen, various things that are also look really cool and different and unique. So yeah, it is. It's nice when it's something that you can reuse, and if it's a boutonniere, it's gonna be done that night. So if you want it to be something that has lasting power, like a pocket square, then you should totally do something cool like that. Hyper monochromatic color schemes. So that would be like all white, or something where it's like the whole event is just like white flowers with greenery, white table linens, white, this and that. I'm a big fan of color, so that would never have been for my personal taste. I have seen this got very popular in the last couple years, and I have been seeing a move out of this. So if you don't want to have it monochromatic, heck yeah, I think you should totally mix it up. It also gives you more flexibility to the way you decorate the space. You get so much flexibility, and it might be classic and timeless to do the hyper monochromatic color scheme, but you don't. I think that's cool. Photo booths are on their way out. I think that's probably true. It's an easy place to cut an expense. And I've seen more people doing the QR codes where you can upload a photo like into the photo gallery because they want photos of the guests. Honestly, if I were getting married and I was having a large wedding, which I did not, as we have discussed, I would just ask my wedding photographer to prioritize getting photos of candidates of every guest interacting. Like, and that isn't always possible, right? Like, there are going to be people who avoid the camera or whatever. And I would never recommend doing table photos. Table photos are honestly, they're just like, if you're willing to stand up and move away from the table, fine. But you probably don't know everyone at your table typically when you go to a wedding. So you don't necessarily like want a photo of all of you together as the guest. You might as the couple, but when the time when you do table photos is always like after everyone's eaten and the tables look so messy and there's like someone is inevitably chewing and still finishing their food and then they're like racing through and then no one wants to open mouth smile either because they have just eaten and they have not checked their teeth. So those things, I would say, I realize that we're talking about photo booths and I have now soapbox Sarah about table photos, but I think asking your photographer to get candids of as many guests as humanly possible and try to get, everybody, that is going to accomplish what a photo booth would accomplish. It is really nice to have photos of everybody having fun that you invite to your wedding. So I always try to do that as the photographer. And I don't think any couples actually ever asked me to do that, but we just try to do it because we want that for you. So yeah, I think that probably accomplishes what a photo booth does. And I feel like I always miss the photo booth when I'm a guest. Too much plastic. Hell yeah. Let's have recycling at weddings. Let's try our best to not have a bunch of extra plastic in general. And that could be like plastic props, glow sticks. They say in here tchotchkes, and trying to have a more carbon zero less of a footprint for your wedding is great because there can be a lot of like stuff that goes into weddings. It's also just an expense too that you can cut. And I'm so sorry, but I do have to point this out. Well, I'll wait till the end. I will wait till the end to get my soapbox back out. The next thing is overly themed decor. It's funny. I always think of like tiki when people say this. Which is not what they mean, although it could be. But they're saying couples are focusing more on artistry, mood, and ambiance, something that is sophisticated and will stand the test of time rather than sticking with a rigid theme. We get a lot of cherry blossom theme in DC. If you've ever been here and you are familiar, or if you're not, we have cherry blossoms around the tidal basin in DC, which is like it's a really beautiful area. It's currently being renovated, but fixed because it was really struggling with shoreline erosion issues and things. So we get a lot of cherry blossom themes here. Yeah, I mean, you definitely can overdo a theme, but if you want to do your theme, like do it. Your photos will still look beautiful and cherry blossoms still are timeless. If tiki's your vibe, go for it. It's not mine, but you should go for it if it is yours. Interesting. The tyranny of the predictable timeline. So they're saying first dance, cake cutting, bouquet toss, sure, they're traditions, but they don't need to feel like chores. Couples are finding ways to make the night flow effortlessly where the vibe dictates the schedule and not the other way around. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now that is what it looks like to be a guest, but none of that is actually accurate. Like behind the scenes, there is so much going into making it look effortless. This is like the people who look effortlessly beautiful who have like regular appointments with the Medi Spa or whatever to like keep up this condition of their skin or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're talking about here. It is a ton of effort is always put into making something look effortless. And that means it falls on someone. So it's either going to fall on the couple or a planner, or it's going to fall on the wedding parties or like a trusted like aunt or something like that. You will always need a timeline or it will be chaos. And there are times when, as the photographer, I try so hard to stick to the timeline, but there are definitely times when I have run couples late because they really wanted a photo here or there and it requires driving somewhere or that kind of thing. Like, and that is absolutely a real thing. So the timeline definitely is there for a reason. And if you don't have one, it is chaos. So I do not agree with that at all. I think it might be, I think what they're saying here is that it should look effortless, but it takes a lot more effort to look effortless than it does to be, to go the other way. Okay. I have to admit that I have to just say this. They're still in this one. If you listen to my 2024, you know that this really bothered me that they said bride and groom every time. It's so easy to just say the couple. I just don't know why we have not adjusted to like that. Not every female identifies as a bride, and not every couple includes a bride and a groom. And I just feel like Vogue, who has this huge platform, could stand to do better on that. And it's really disappointing. Last year, I thought it was like maybe an oversight. And maybe it still is, but I have to tell you, it's just so disappointing to read this and to see that it's like bride and groom, bride and groom, bride and groom. And and it's very bride forward, which I understand that weddings tend to be bride forward. But again, I have to say, like every couple that's depicted here is at least appearing to be a hetero couple in terms of the photos and the names in the actual like invitation suite that they had commissioned. um I don't know. I just think it's disappointing, and I guess all that to say, if you feel disappointed by that, I'm sorry. I see you, I hear you, and it does upset me and bother me as well. So you are not alone if you feel that way. And if you don't, I'm glad that you didn't have that experience while reading this. Overall, I think this was a little bit more price accessible than the last one. Like the last one where they were saying drone shows were going to be in. Not that fireworks are necessarily inexpensive, but drone shows are definitely at a different level in price than what is. And I know Vogue's argument is like aspirational, but like this is more price inclusive, I guess, or budget inclusive than last year. So I have to give them props on that. I like the ideas. I like that they're saying a lot of this is like more of a you do you and make this feel like you as a couple and that kind of thing, as opposed to like things that most couples would never think to do, like the drone show, or need to do. Whereas like, I think it's really cool to do a custom, a custom like escort card table or place cards or that kind of thing. Like, I think those are cool. I think those are fun. I think those are things that like maybe you take home, maybe you leave behind, and somebody else will happily take your pepper grinder or whatever the case may be if you don't want to take it, or if you're like in Maryland and you want to do Old Bay or something as your spice. I've seen that a bunch of times. Those are so cute. Or we've seen crab mallets as well. Those are fun too, that have like the couples, you can customize those. I think those are fun. I like some of these. I like a lot of these suggestions. I do always want to say, and I know I said this throughout, but I just want to remind everyone, you should do what makes you happy, what stays within your budget. Please don't take out loans in order to afford your wedding. And make sure you're on the same page with the person that you're marrying, and that you both feel like it represents what you would like and your vision for the day. And yeah, I don't have a whole lot of problems with this outside of the it not being the most inclusively written thing that I've ever read. Outside of that, I think these are some cool ideas. So you should check it out. Keep in mind, you gotta, if you're spending somewhere, you gotta save somewhere. So yeah, I love it though. I think these are good. I think, I think this is more fun than the last year's list was. So there's that. There are also some things that I'm seeing that I don't see on this list. I'm seeing a lot more dresses that are patterned or colored in some capacity. I'm also seeing more patterns associated with suits, either on the suit in it as a textural pattern or like on the shirt, that kind of thing. So, floral shirts or I'm seeing a lot more of patterns in the actual couple's attire, which I think is kind of cool, and colors and things like that. So I think those are the two big things I'm seeing. I also think the old Hollywood hair is going to go out, and that's not mentioned here because that was really big. And I love old Hollywood hair. I'm here for it. But I do think that that's on its way out. Much like when I got married, the braids were very much in, and no, those are kind of on their way out. So, or those are, and again, like people still use them. Just because it's quote unquote out doesn't mean it's like not cool or it doesn't look good, to those points. And it can still be timeless without, even if it is something that is like a trend. Just depends on the way you execute. And if you like it, you like it. You do you. And I hope that you all enjoyed this blind reaction. A little longer episode than I was hoping for, but hopefully if you're still here, then you're a rock star. And if you're still here, you can find us on Instagram at The Wedding Dish Podcast, and you'll get all kinds of updates and stuff when we drop new episodes. And give us a follow, rate, and review across the podcast platforms, whichever one is your preferred, or YouTube. And if you want show notes, I'll link to this article so you can check it out. You can also Google it, but as always, you'll get all the show notes and things at theweddingdishpodcast.com. And you can apply to be a guest there too. So if you want to join me this season on The Wedding Dish, then heck yeah, fill that application out and we will get the ball rolling if it is a good fit. And until we meet again, cheers, everybody.